were saying your grandma said,
Yeah.
show me your friends, I'll show you your character.
Yeah, I thought that was a really, just like growing up and reflecting on that, I thought it was, it hit home for me because it was somebody that was based on external people or external happenings that wasn't mine. So I was like, wow, I thought it was profound because I, like you were saying, like, you had like hanging out with people and stuff, you hadn't realized, your character was kind of reshaping itself with, the likes of the people you're around. So for me, that reflection was, again, similar to yours, but understanding that other thing externally could impact me internally in the long run. It's not necessarily helpful or good for the well-being. So I've always, even when I was a kid, I've always tried to curate my friend circle, mainly because of either I was doing something crazy and I needed, friends that, we're gonna be friends. Or, so yeah, I always had a reason to be around real ones.
Oh my goodness. Oh yes, I know. Yes. Do you actually feel like what age do you remember your grandma first saying that? Because for you to have that self-awareness as a child is huge. Because I feel like most of us sleepwalk through life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I don't necessarily remember, but I remember I was with my grandmother from the age of 4.5 or 5 to about, I think, 11 or so. So probably I want to say we had moved to a new place where I really started to grow up and understand life. And I was about 7 or 8. So I would say between the age of 8 to 11, between there.
Okay.
But my grandmother, I always talk about her. She was one of the first person that had a boss type effect on my life, just in terms of just having her own things that was external from government related jobs or whatever. She was an administrator for a school, and so I thought that was cool because she was the one writing the checks and stuff for the principal and all of that. Because as a kid, I thought, going to school, I thought the principal was at the top. So knowing the person that was above the principal was such a cool thing. And she also had like properties and things. So as a kid, she'll make her monthly rounds in the city and things like that, and I would be with her. And I just remember just how they treated her with respect, and also how they treated me because of her. And so growing up, I guess at a young age, I've always knew to an extent that there was a different setup in terms of work and living, other than what is given to you.
Wow.
But yeah.
So she really did, like she was someone that you actually aspired to be like and become, because she showed you a different trajectory almost. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And in terms of the reason why I feel like it's such an impactful story is because she's a female, and people don't realize there's a lot of odds being a female trying to navigate a man's world, and like my grandmother is from back in the day, and she had a bar and had all that stuff when she was younger, and it's crazy. So like for me, understanding her, not necessarily understanding how it all came together, but just understanding again the logistical things that I could take and apply to my journey. That was what I took from it the most. But she's always someone that was, to sum up in one word, I would say she taught me to be independent, and that is something that really stuck with me.
Yeah. Do you feel like also something else I took away from one of your earlier episodes was like, don't wait for permission? Do you feel like your grandma taught you that as well?
It's probably taught me the opposite. Ask permission.
To ask for permission, yeah.
Yeah, and my grandmother, I never realized, but when I was younger, she was kind of shaping me up to be a gentleman. But you know, as a kid, you never realize that. But for me, the reason why I say like don't ask permission is because a lot of permission, and even like to go back to what I was telling you that I just recently painted my studio wall. I was like, I woke up one morning, I was like, should I like actually the night before I was like, I should probably like text the landlord and like, hey, I'm painting the wall and whatever. And then I was like, it's just paint. And so I woke up in the morning, I painted the wall. I was like, if it comes down to it, I'll just get the paint spec and repaint it. But so far so good.
I love that. No, that's so good.
Yeah,
wake up.
Yeah, that's normally how, like, if I'm thinking about something too much, I'm like, all right, just do it. Or if I'm thinking about it like too much, where it's bringing up like anxiety and other stuff, I'm like, all right, probably let's not do it like at all. So for me, it's one or the other. Either I feel the fear and I'm all in, or I feel the fear and I'm all out. But either way, it's a good lesson because I learned from it. It's either I made the right or wrong decision. But just again to sum up, just being around my grandmother and how she went about life and all the things she did, and that for me was I guess inspirational, you could say. But for me, it just taught me about the dynamics of life and how you could kind of position yourself in a more strategic and in a different way and offer people different things than what society is offering them.
I like how you said positioning yourself, because I think for a lot of my life, and maybe for a lot of other people too, it's like we have this passive way of thinking.
Yeah.
Of letting things come to us and letting, life happen to you. But it's like, as I was saying before, like we sleepwalk through life, and it's like what you've mentioned as well, like reflection a lot in our chat, and that changed my life, honestly. There was this quote in my because I work at a school, and my principal, she has this quote in her room, in her office, that says, we don't learn from reflection, we learn by reflecting. Oh, we don't learn from experience. Sorry, that was such a build-up and then I ruined it. We don't learn from experience, we learn by reflecting on experience. And I remember looking at that being like, what does that even mean? And I started to reflect and thought, who's the common denominator in all the problems I keep ending up in and the situations I keep ending up in? It's me. And if we don't face ourselves,
that's such a powerful realization to have.
Yeah. If we don't face our our brokenness and and whatever traumas we might have, and our deepest fears, and they call it like your intolerable emotion that we avoid of I can't actually, there's a different word for it, but it's like, until we do that, we're just sleepwalking and blaming other people, and we're positioning ourselves for failure every time because we're letting ourselves down. We're not we're not willing to do the work and to say, hey, what do you need right now? We're waiting for everyone else to fulfill those needs.
Yeah. I heard something similar along the lines of 80% of the people would rather, 80% of the people do not think, and the remaining 20% would rather someone else do the thinking for them. And I feel like that kind of is similar to what you're saying with, people being like walking zombies, basically. But your current read, even the title alone, I was like, I might actually add this and add it to my reading list. The body keeps the score. Are you still reading that, or is that done with?
Yep. I'm on, I think, chapter 14 or 15. I haven't read it properly in a bit. Currently
I just thought it was such a great, just from the title alone, I was curious as to what are some of the lessons you've been able to pull away from it so far?
Yeah, well, I guess to sum it up, the title "The Body Keeps the Score" is that our body doesn't forget what happens to us, and until we deal with it, and again, the tension and release, until we deal with the pain and the hurt that's happened to us, especially in our childhood, then we will carry it with us into everything, into every relationship. And it all started so I get like a supervision counseling session once a term for my job, which is incredible and life-changing literally every time. But I remember just saying to my counselor, or therapist as you guys might call them, just telling her that this weird interaction happened with this male, and I was like, ugh, and I just shuddered after telling her. I was like, oh yeah, it was just weird. And she said to me, your body has been holding on to that, and until now, like, and it had been maybe 2 months. She's like, your body has just released that tension that it wasn't allowed to, because you froze in that moment.
Wow.
And I wasn't even like thinking of coming to her with that story in the, like, it just came about, as you do in counseling sessions. But that for me just started this whole, just opened up this whole thing of how connected our bodies are to our emotions, and again, that the nervous system, the ventral vagal nervous system, and just even like chronic illness is often caused by those traumas that we've buried deep down, or we don't even realize is there, and our body is still like, it has changed our, not our DNA, but it's holding it. And it's just like, when people have bitterness and unforgiveness, it's like proven that their body starts to break down.
Yeah.
Because you're holding on to it. So you need that release of forgiveness, and or whether it's movement or something like that, but it needs to move out of your body, and you need to complete that action. And it's honestly just incredible how we're created, and how it's like, it's just insane, how like if something comes close to our eye, we blink or immediately move away. It's just we just know things. Our body knows things, that are before our brain does sometimes.
Right. And some of that could be described as intuition or other things. But to you, to what you're saying, and even with that, I feel like a lot of people don't pay attention to intuition and their internal feelings, and even that voice or consciousness in your head, mainly because, again, of the societal programming to want to rely heavily on external solutions, which if you think about it, it really is a funny thing, because you have a question in your head that you can only really relate to other people through perspectives, and knowing that everyone only have a unique perspective. Like, you and I could be standing in the exact same position marked with an X, and you could paint a picture that's very different than mine, or we could stand next to each other and look at the same thing, but hone in and focus in on one particular object. And so I feel like a lot of people don't really take advantage of, I guess, just like the uniqueness of their own story, and focus too much on external solution, which necessarily, again, is not going to work for everyone, but you can, take away tricks and other things from other people's journey and things that could help you out.
I think it's exactly what we were saying before as well, the self-reflection, because if you don't understand yourself and and what sets you off or what makes you come alive, then you'll always be frustrated at others because you're living with a stranger essentially, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And
go ahead.
so what you said about the ex, I tell the kids at school, you know, when they're like, no, he said this, she said this, and you know, I say, look, if I drew a number 9 or a number 6,
right,
either way, on the floor, and you were standing there, let's just say I drew a 9, I'd say, you'd say that's a 6, and I'd say, no, it's a 9, but
right.
we're both right.
Exactly.
And the point isn't about being right, it's about understanding, as you said, each other's perspectives, because we all have our own lived experiences and lenses that we look at life through.
Yeah, and at times those can be clouded based on past experience or just emotional state in the current moment.
Oh, so true. Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's
the amount of time sorry.
No, go ahead.
The amount of times I've, you know, thought someone was trying to hurt me, or, you know, thought something was against me, but it was like, no, actually that's just triggering another time that I felt that, but it's not the truth right now.
Yeah.
But until you deal with that, it's always going to be, you know, the pain that you see through.
Definitely. And, you know, that's why I feel like even with the podcast, I wanted to have a discussion necessarily that's rather a wholesome discussion, because I feel like art and creatives it tend to be mostly within the art part of it. And for me, I look at creatives as sacred people, in the sense that if you look at the order of life and just like the important things and the different arts that are available and how they affect us in different ways, the music, arts, paintings, dancing, and all of that. Like you were saying with singing, and, you know, those are different things that are connected to the body, that allows a person to feel a certain way or brings out certain emotion or allow them to connect with certain things. And I've always put music and art at the top, because I feel like music based on, you know, actually, you know, the sounds and things, especially with the beat, came about based on the beat of your heart. And that is why I listen to reggae music, because a lot of the beat in reggae music is based on the internal organs in the human body, and, you know, like the sound and rhythm and things that it makes. And so when you listen to reggae music, there's a continuous beat that carries over regardless of the song and the artist, and it's the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's the do do do, and is literally, and it's there for that purpose. And if you're a reggae musician, that is something you don't mess around with, which I thought was really profound, because as a kid I remember listening and I'm like, oh, these songs sound so similar. And then, you know, growing up and learning more, I'm like, that's why. This is intentionally done like that. But in terms of the podcast, Dumb, Naked, and Broke, and, you know, another way to understand I'm not dumb, I'm not naked, I'm not broke. And, you know, dumb meaning, dumb, naked, and broke meaning you're young, inexperienced, and ignorant. So looking at it from that lens, again, a matter of perspective, you could then begin to put practices into place that can help you overcome certain things. Because when you're young, it's not necessarily you're dumb. It's just, you know, you don't have those answers. I remember this was like high school into college, waking up at like 5:30 to go run and like 6 in the morning. Like, one of the worst things anyone could tell me is to go and run. So for me to wake myself up to go and run, that was like insanity. So I used to listen to
itself.
I used actually reflecting on my whole like sports career. I'm like, damn, dude, you wasn't putting in that much work. You should have said like it wasn't for you.
Yeah, an athlete's life is
It's crazy.
Oh, it is.
Wow.
It looks not, the word's not bland, but it's honestly, I think what we were saying as well before, it's repetition.
Yeah, it works for the people it
Repetition.
works for.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it is repetition and being particular. Um, you got to be really particular, even if you're doing the same drill over and over. You gotta approach it as the first time, regardless of how you feel, energy level, and all of that. So all of that, in the long run, helped me with building this kind of character to be a designer. But going back to the podcast, young meaning you can't. I was listening to I used to run in the morning, and I listened to Eric Thomas, who's a motivational speaker, and he said something once,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he was like, I guess he was speaking on the process and patience and journey and getting to everything, but he said you can't be 21 in 19 years, and that really stuck with me as a kid. And I was like, wow, just like all this work and things I'm trying to have happen, time is a key factor in all of this. Time and patience, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it goes hand in hand, like your legs and your arms when you're walking,
Yeah.
it just follows suit. So as a person, I had to understand, regardless of how much I wanted certain things to happen in the moment, how much or how bad I wanted to have certain things in my life, and how relentless effort that I went after it at. It wasn't going to happen if the time wasn't perfect. So that understanding for me was so huge, because how I approach things wasn't so much of trying to approach things and then get to the end result. It was mostly approach things and then figure out, is this worth my time? Is it worth the investment? But then also when I'm working on it, understanding that the creation process from start to beginning it's not like, it's not going to be like the previous one that I work on, even though,
Yeah.
I have the styles and all the things that,
Yeah.
I could draw this letter A and have it be fancy. It has to speak in its own light. It has to speak in its own right. And so for me, a lot of that came with, understanding patience and understanding the process of what I was doing. And so
Yeah.
with the podcast, I feel like a lot of creatives tend to want to rush that process. And so with the podcast is an attempt to help people not only appreciate what you're doing in the moment, but also put into play patience as well. And also not just like believing what you're doing and go after it in a sense, but understand that everything happens in due time. And as an artist, I look at artists and creatives as, I think I probably already said it, like divine beings, where we have these universal, I guess, cosmic like powers in a sense, where just through our eternal questions and things that we ask, because like you're saying is a repetition thing. Because if you wake up and you're mentally asking all these questions, that's like someone going to the gym every day. And over time, your brain is gonna break down these barriers, and you're gonna think sharply, and process things a lot faster than the average person.
Yeah.
So as a creative, you're relying on perspective, experiences, and all that stuff. But most importantly, you're taking all the past and trying to project a future. And so that's where like cosmic like relationship come into play, because the future is not something that's there until it's there. And when it's there, it's not the future anymore. It's the now or the past. So so I feel like, with creators, we have that ability and we have that power to, connect and help people understand their journey. But also going back to how we started the conversation with creatives, it's important to have a source of things that, replenish and keep you focused and keep you locked in, or give you a reminder to take a break or go for a walk or listen to music. And so that was the background approach to the podcast, to help enlighten other people through just conversations and our personal stories.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's shown in your podcast style, because it is, yeah, like we're just, you know, fleshing things out. Because I emailed you and I was like, do you have any questions? What I need to prepare? And it's so true. We have to just sometimes let go of our attachment to the outcome, because I'd love to understand why we're so fixated on, you know, I mean, maybe it's partly, you know, how we're brought up in school, like you've got to get this certain outcome sort of thing. But yeah, it's also what you said, like, you know, being divine. I love this quote that says, like, art is born when the temporary touches the eternal. And yeah, we are divine. We are created to create, and it's what, you know, it's when you're creating that most people would come alive, you know. It's like making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And bringing that.
Which is life. Just in terms of looking at really simplify on either piece of paper, or you're working in Procreate like everyone else. But that's the process of life, is, you know, taking anything and transforming it. Or, you know, on surface level, they could look as if nothing is there, and then the next day you see a sunflower, you see something else in that exact spot. And you know, it's just that's the process of life. It's a lot happens below the surface.
Yes, that's so good, below the surface. And yeah, like for you, you know, by the end of the week, what's gonna, you know, right now is a blank wall, is gonna have your art on it.
Yeah, so
it's incredible.
Yeah, we are. So the wall we were painting, I'm working with this. It's like a business plus residential building, and I'm doing wayfinding and signage directory for them, and then we like the courtyards and the, you know, outside of the buildings, the signages are getting hand painted. But this next phase we're doing this mural that I want to say probably about probably, I want to say like a regular house height, like 10 feet tall, but it's a hallway that has, you know, businesses doors on right and left side, and over 100 feet long in terms of the hallway. So so it's gonna be a fun week, but we'll see how it goes. But in terms of you asking me about prepping for the podcast and questions and whatnot, my personal style is all about being free and being yourself. But most importantly, I'm huge on comfort, regardless of the setting. I feel like when people are comfortable and they can really express how they feel, they can really express. And like you were saying with a story of the incident with one particular male that you was chatting with your counselor about.
Yeah.
It's so different. It's so different, but just like, you know, and your body hanging on to that without your knowledge. It's the same way.
Yeah. And again, your body knows before you do, sometimes consciously, because your heart starts racing, your eyes start darting.
Right.
You start, you know, you might glaze over, or you might, you know, make yourself small, or, you know, if you go into fight mode for some people, and then you're like suddenly punching something, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened, you know? And it's like your body's memorized this feeling, and they're like, oh, I know what to do. But, you know, if it keeps getting into trouble, you should probably check in on it.
Yeah, maybe one too many punches to the face. It's time for you to ask a question or two. But I got a question for you, actually. This one has proven to be a little tougher for everyone.
Okay.
So
I love a tough question.
Great. Never hear music again, or listen, or lose your ability to read.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I think, okay, it would be lose the ability to read, because then I could just listen to audio.
30 minutes you was reading.
Pardon?
What was that?
Because I could just listen to audiobooks and there's these cool things I've seen these kids at school use, and they're like these electronic pens and you run them over the page and it
Right, the
reads it for
text.
you. So we're in 2021. If you had asked me maybe in 2000, it would have been a harder question.
I guess modern problems require modern solutions. I guess that is true. But music is life, so that's also true. But imagine,
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
you know, you. I'm having a connection problem at the moment. Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh no, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Imagine you no longer have to work. How would
Okay.
How would your typical day be like?
Oh, do you know what? I was just saying to my sister yesterday, I actually love working.
Oh.
And I think sometimes the reason why I curl up in bed is when I don't have as much work on, and I think I can tend to attach my worth to productivity. So the question was, if I didn't have work, what would I do?
Yeah, imagine you no longer have to work.
Oh,
How
okay.
would a typical day be like?
Oh, I'd go to the beach.
Like all day?
I would go to the beach. Sorry?
All day?
Not all day. I'd probably go like early morning, have a swim, read, nap, have a good lunch or brekkie somewhere, and then probably, either catch up with friends or paint. That's normally what I do. Like if I have a day off, just paint for fun sort of thing. But I'd probably also still like want to go in to work.
You got to get that 10-second sketch out the way.
Well, that's not work. That's the practice, not work.
Wow. Well, in terms of work, what's your definition of work? When you say work, are you speaking about your job, or are you speaking about painting or lettering?
Yeah, okay. So when I'm speaking about work, I'm speaking about something that someone else has like commissioned me to do, whether it is working at the school or teaching piano, or it's not taking orders from someone, but it's being, I guess, responsible for someone other than myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because I really value community, but also it is a lack of I guess self-mastery I'm realizing as well, like that, like, who are you when no one is
who are you
making you do something
like that.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, yeah, I want to be the same in and out of season, like whether no one's looking or everyone's looking. I want to show up, and I think that comes also, like from having a, I guess, history of self-betrayal, and it's learning to keep those promises to yourself.
Self-betrayal.
Yeah.
What is that? That sounds very, like, it sounds like this.
It's sort of what we were speaking about a little bit before, about how like not listening to the gut feelings we've been given, or our intuition, and we often shut it down because of we're afraid that of what other people think, or we've been sort of conditioned to not listen to it. But it's like when like we've been given a gut feeling and our intuition for a reason, and so when you keep shutting that down, you're literally saying to yourself, no, you're lying, that's not true, or I don't value you enough to to trust what you're saying. I trust what the other people know what's best right now.
Right. Which is, you know, like you're saying, is the school, like the schooling setup where you're relying on either your teachers and then you progress to the work environment and you're relying on supervisors and managers to give you directives. And in terms of if you have a side hobby or a side hustle or you know, even freelancing, it can be hard because then you don't have that person that's like, you need to do X, Y, and Z in the moment. And that is always kind of hard. So like self-discipline. You know, man.
But I think we deep down we know. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think for me, I've learned to be, like led forth in peace, because I've learned how horrible it is to betray your heart over and over. It's just so gross, and there's like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth being at war with yourself. I can't.
What's the
Look at
what's
that,
the
I'm shaking.
what was that?
I literally was doing that again. Like, there was that yucky feeling.
Let go of it. Why not? But what's the opposite of that? When you do tap in and do listen to your intuition and do listen to your gut feeling, what comes out of that? Do you feel better off for it? Do you feel like a better person? Do you feel like a better designer? Do you think you're better off as a creative or better off as an individual as a whole?
100%. I think when your conscience is clear, you know, your imagination can go wild. But when you're riddled with guilt and shame, there's no room to explore a different reality. You're trapped,
right?
You know. But when you are free and your conscience is clear and you know that it's like, you know, you've done what is best according to you, and not like, obviously I think there's always that, you know, tension of, you've got, you know, wise counsel for sure, but there's sometimes where it's like, actually I really feel like I can't put my finger on it. And it's learning to trust that. It's honestly just, it's learning and not questioning it too much. So I think the opposite of that is a clear conscience, and from a clear conscience flows that imagination and new ideas and a new perspective, which is where, you know, new creativity can flow from.
Yeah, it's, with creativity, it's hard to, like I was saying, you know, each project is different, and it's hard to pinpoint a start of, you know, oh, this is where it started and where it ended. But being open and you know, allowing the consciousness to be in a state of readiness and not necessarily reflecting on the past can help propel you.
And I think a good way to practice it is with the people around us, because you know, whether we like it or not, every single person gives out energy. We give out an electromagnetic field, you know, like scientifically. And I'm sure you've had this as you know, with different people you've worked with, you know, like you get this feeling of, like this is going to be a really great working relationship.
Yeah.
Or this is probably going to be like pushing a boulder up a mountain. Like from the first email, I can feel it.
Yeah.
And I think I've also
those early
learned from
flags. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Oh yes, those red flags.
Speaking
not just with people that you work with, but it's just in general.
Yeah,
you
in
know,
general, people you come in contact with, and it could be in conversation as well, that you could spot those red flags. But something you said you come alive when creating, and you feel privileged when you witness other and coming alive in their creativity. Um, is
Yeah.
is art a lifetime passion or career choice for you? And but also, but what I just said, what helped you with that realization of being like a supporter of others when you see them thriving,
Right.
especially
So yeah, I actually didn't grow up creative or thinking I was creative. I used to think, because my older brother, he's really good at sketching, especially faces. Like he just, growing up, I remember he'd just do it. And I thought, oh, I'd try it. Trying everything your older brother does. And I thought, oh, I can't do that. I mustn't be creative. And I guess as well in art at school, it's quite structured. And yeah, so I remember asking a friend actually, do you think I'm creative? And it was just like a very passing comment, because someone was saying what his job was like, an architect, and he was like, yeah, like you have to have some level, obviously you have to be creative to be an architect. And then I just said to a friend, do you think I'm creative? And she didn't mean it with any malice at all, but she just like thought about it for a second and said no. Wow. Because our thinking back then was literally, being creative is being able to draw a body or a face or something. That was just so limited. Yeah, it was so limited. And so I literally just thought, I'm not creative. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I may not have been able to draw that, but I used to set up, like in our house when people came over, I would label everything with price tags, and I'd be like, welcome to my store, like and my uncle says that, like, I used to be like, yeah, like I'm gonna own like CJ, like that's my initials and that's what my family calls me, like I'm gonna own like CJ Bank one day, CJ Supermarket, like and and then I actually like me and my sisters like made like a mini cafe, and when people would come over we'd like make them stuff and then charge people at the end, and my parents would be like, oh my gosh, girls, you can't charge people, like
I mean,
and I was like, why not? I was like, we made this for them and they ordered it, I don't see no wrong. But anyway, so I grew up thinking, yeah, I honestly, until about 5-6 years ago, when I started playing around with that paint by numbers brush and IKEA watercolors, just like the basics, that literally broke open this thing in me. And I'm actually really glad I didn't grow up painting, because it's not, I wouldn't say I consider it part of my identity. Like it's honestly been a blessing in disguise having it come out later in my life, because it's something that doesn't have a lot of structure. And I grew up playing classical piano. It's all about hitting that right note. It has to be right, it has to be this way, so growing up and music being very structured, that was it proves a challenge to me even now, because when I'm improvising, I'm like, oh, that's not, I'm like, no, just just go with it, sort of thing. It's like the metronome forever ingrained in my head. But in terms of painting, that's why I love, like, I hear people at workshops that I teach saying, oh my goodness, I didn't know I could do this, or they'll say, I don't have a creative burn in my body, and I'm like, no, that's a lie. Like we all yeah, we absolutely, all of us, and I know that sounds so cliche and so hallmark, but it doesn't have to look the same as everyone else. And I think that's what I've learned, like, yeah, you don't have to be like the rest of them.
I feel like your creative expression is similar to your individual look. if you're going around and saying
Yeah.
yourself that you don't look like, you know, everybody else, that's a horrible way to live. It's the same
Yeah.
as creative expression. But with, you know, with school, I could relate to that because when I was in art school, I remember in terms of the tactical stuff, that was okay. But in terms of the historical and how things are supposed to be done, or if they aren't done this way, then it's wrong. That I didn't relate to because for me, I understood art as different. And, you know,
Yeah.
being a person that's, you know, directly from Africa, actually. So like being in the US was kind of different with art history because the art history in, I don't know, overseas, but just in universities are mostly like European based. And so not like, you know, the likes of Michelangelo and all them dudes are not dope. They're dope. But in terms of people gravitate towards certain things because if you look like a certain person, you're from a certain region, or your taste is different, just like your food taste is different, your clothing is different. So the art,
that's so true.
So for me, that was kind of a thing where I was like, you know, like, do I really want to be Michelangelo and paint on ceilings and, you know, and have people, you know, copy my work throughout eternity, creation of atoms. I'm talking about with the hand.
But that's the thing. Hey, everyone is looking to relate.
Exactly.
You know, we're all looking for common ground, and I think with art, you know, I've heard it so many times. It's like people buy stories. They don't buy a product. They buy your story, and they buy something that resonates with them. I had this person message me once saying, "Your art is healing me." Like I've never heard from them since. I don't remember their name or anything. I mean, I could probably find it, but I was like, that's because my art's healing me too. And, you know, if I was just, you know, recreating a Michelangelo piece, that would not have happened. But because, you know, art is your heart and soul on a canvas, and it says things that words can't.
Right.
People can, you know, people feel that deeply when they can sense that, you know, you're processing as you paint or as you create, and it shows.
Yeah, exactly. Because with art, you already, for me in my process, I'm more involved and more connected when it's happening. Like the reaction that people have when they see my work is the reaction I have when I'm creating. That's how I'm kind of immersed.
Yeah.
Once it's done.
Yeah. Wow.
Once it's done, like, oh, it's done, and then I share it with the public, and then people have the reaction they have. But for me, I get the same thing that you know, whether it's, you know, working through a problem or healing. I get the sense that the reason why people gravitate towards the final product is because a lot of the work has been done already. Like for example, you're the healer, so the formula and the quote unquote spells that needs, you know, to happen for the healing to happen, you already gone through that. So in your art, I just, you know, it's kind of like I don't like to use like chemical medication, but for the sake of this, it'll make sense. Like for example, if you were a creator of Advil or something, you already got this scientific, you know, chemistry and all of that together. Me, on the other hand, I have a headache, so I'm like,
wow.
Put out these new brands, and I'm finna, you know, take one, and now my headache is gone. So I'm like, hey, thank you, because now you've helped me out. So I kind of look at it the same way, except the people on the other end, depending on their perspective and, you know, and experiences, might connect to certain stories that you might have in, you know, in parallel or in connection with them. And that tends to, you know, expand the art piece a lot more and invite, you know, opportunity for deeper conversation. But I tend to look at art that way. But for me, I'm really just 100% immersed in the process of creating and just being in my head and like you were saying, and hitting a roadblock and then trying to figure out that puzzle and working around it. All of that is all like excitement. But when it's done, you know, like, because when it's done, it's a flat image. And when you're sketching, you're building on something that has multiple layers.
Yeah.
So that's the important part, you know.
Yeah. That's all my paintings, like they have all this texture because there's literally layers underneath, and I paint over them.
I love seeing the close-up shots because they're
Thank you.
They're so awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, two things. It's funny. I don't know if you've gotten this feeling before, but once you finish the painting, right, I feel like that's my accomplishment. But then, you know, the other side of it is putting it out there and selling it. But I often forget about selling it because to me it's like it's complete, it's done.
Yeah.
And then I hung some art in a cafe, in a local cafe this year, and I had done the art, most of the pieces, like about 6 months before. And I just remember hanging it and thinking, I can't even fully connect with these pieces anymore because that Chloe was just going such deep healing. But now I'm on the other side of it and so healed that it's like I don't have this emotional connection. But at first when I put them out, I felt so vulnerable and, you know, so laid bare. But 6 months later, it was like, oh.
It feels like you're like almost revealing a part of you. You know, people might not, even people who are close to you don't even know. And so it's like, okay, how are people going to respond to this? And when I post, my secret to posting is like when I'm active, I tend to be active. And I recently, over the last year, got with the caption and like my captions, I try to go in and explain what people are looking at. But usually I post and I go about my day, and it's like 5-6 hours later, I'm like, oh, what's happening? So that tends to like you take, you know, scale back some of the, you know, vulnerability and also like anxiety or whatever. But I don't necessarily get those no more. But in terms of being vulnerable, I do still get that when I put out something. And also, I share with you.
Get the vulnerability. Sorry, the vulnerability hanger.
Yeah, I shared with you some of my newer work that, you know, I haven't started posting yet. And you said something that I thought was kind of interesting. That the reaction you said was you got from it like the desire for truth. And you know, and again, it's kind of where, you know, like exploration of where I'm going. At the core of what I'm doing is, you know, like just societal truths and, you know, everything else, universal truths. But also a lot of unlearning, I would say, has happened. In the last year and a half, I've probably unlearned a lot than I've learned. And it probably don't make a lot of sense to people, but it's more about emptying the system to refill it with something else, something completely different.
It's what you said about being childlike as artists, you know, and it is a lot of our adult life is unlearning to become, you know, childlike again, you know, not become a child, but have that awe and wonder that you have as a kid where you're uninhibited and you know, you go and you skip down the street.
Exactly.
And you don't care. It was actually funny once, me and my friend, she's 6'3" and she actually moved to America. Love you, Liv. Last year. But once we were walking down her street and it was like a busy street, and I was like, let's skip. And so we both just started skipping. Must have looked hilarious, this, you know, 6'3" and 5 foot, I don't know, 2 me girls just like skipping down a street. And this guy rode past on his bike and he like did a double take and he was like, skipping. Like he actually said it loud. He was like, skipping. And we had the best time. Because
Yeah.
people's lives are boring. You've got to spice it up,
Oh yeah,
with
always,
skipping.
always. Even if you're with anyone, like say like for an hour, 2 hours, if you like a little activity that's just out of the ordinary, that tends to just body wise, mood wise, just raises the mood and if the weather's nice, then it's a really beautiful day if you add skipping to it. So
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
you can't not
yeah,
smile while skipping,
exactly,
and that
exactly.
it's
That is true.
unlearning.
That is true.
It's unlearning the seriousness of shh, be quiet. Like
Yeah.
that we've been taught, and
Awesome.
it's like no.
I kind of have some rapid fire questions. But before I
Oh,
get
love
into
it.
that, any upcoming event or things you want to talk about? I know you have mentioned a upcoming mural work that you was pretty excited about.
Yeah, so I think I've wanted to do more murals for a long time, but it's just sort of laid dormant, just with other work and, as you said, the process. Um, but I've started one at the school I work at, and yeah, so the theme is I called it the Wonder Wall because it says like I wonder what we will discover today, and it's got an astronaut um, sitting on a planet, sort of thinking. So yeah, it's like a space sort of themed. To be honest, I think I've really doubted myself with it because I'm like, oh, it looks so kiddie, and I'm like, it's at a school, it's supposed to look kiddie. I'm like, I have nailed the brief here. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I think that's one thing I crave, and I got a friend to build this prop wall in my garage just so I could, splash around and paint,
Awesome.
without inhibition. Is that the word? Inhibitions? Yeah, and just be childlike with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, big surfaces, messing them up. That's one thing I like, messing up. I don't like mess otherwise, but
Yeah, the only thing I would
and
say is, just pick up some paint cloth. That's it, and you could go as crazy.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want to do that thing where, have you seen how in like that movie, The Princess Diaries, they fill paint, like water balloons with paint, and then they throw arrows at it?
I haven't
Oh,
seen it in that movie, but I've seen that before. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen a mural that was painted that way, and the
Oh,
text
cool.
I'm gonna give out.
Oh,
I don't remember the artist, so I'll give out.
maybe I'll.
So the way that was
Yeah.
painted was the text was, I guess the text was drawn on the wall and then it was taped, whatever letters, and then it was like a
Oh,
community thing where like people in the community or whoever was there grabbed a balloon, threw it on the wall. So it was like all these different colors, and then at the end the tape was revealed, and so the text was white and then the background was colorful. It was pretty beautiful.
that is incredible. Okay, I need to find that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I saw that a while
How
ago.
cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought the same as well. But you also
Yeah.
mentioned a new collection dropping before Christmas.
Yes.
I'm curious.
Yes.
The collection.
So I do this a lot. I'll say I'm doing a collection, and then I have to come up with one. So I think because I love pressure. I thrive under pressure, and so I have concepts and I have some pieces which I think are half done, but yeah, I think I've found it a challenge to marry abstract art with lettering, and that's what I really want to do with this, because I think I've let a lot of the abstract art in the past sort of just be a bit more, let the colors speak for itself, but I really want to play around with more, not just like calligraphy style lettering, but just a bit more free on those pieces. And yeah, it'll hit soon. I'll let you guys know when it comes out.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
It's like I'm sure it'll be. I feel like you're more of a event event oriented creative. Like I see a lot of you like events you do and it's so like put together. It's funny you was giving me a rundown from when you were a kid, and that makes sense on how like it kind of comes together. Even, with the charging people. Were you serving like imaginary tea, or was this like real food?
No, it was legit.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. You're charging them. Oh yeah, obviously.
It was the best. It was the best Milo you've ever had.
Oh yeah, as long as it wasn't no imaginary air, you was charging like.
No, hey, I will serve you the best Milo and instant noodles you've ever had. I promise.
Oh, interesting. Oh wow. I hope that happens. I actually have family in Australia, and I've always like tried to get them to have me come over.
Yeah, whereabouts in Australia?
I'm not at the moment. I don't know, but I had a friend who's where you were at. I had a friend in Australia for I think a year or 2 years who lives in Queensland. You said?
Yeah, in Brisbane.
Yeah. For like about a year, but my family, I don't know particularly where they are. They're like extended family, which is why it's taking so long for them to have me come out there. They're not gonna listen to that stuff.
Anybody out there?
Are you most productive in the morning or at night?
Oh, okay. Creatively, mornings. I'm learning first thing.
Wow.
After I, after I do my morning routine, have some quiet time, then paint. But admin-wise, definitely, I don't know, when it's dark outside, I'm like admin queen. Like I just smash it out.
Interesting. Are you a creative or a system thinker?
A creative or a system thinker?
Yeah, meaning like a system thinker, meaning you break down the process of, like a project, X, Y, and Z needs to happen, and you break down.
Okay. Yeah.
And you get into it.
I think
you just jump
I'm
into
a bit of a
figure it out.
Yeah, okay. I'm a bit of an oxymoron. I'd like to say a spontaneous perfectionist because I have my lists and I know what I need to do, but I will drop something to go and, watch a butterfly.
Because that's more important.
So I think it's like I need structure so I can be free, if that makes sense. Like I need that foundation so I can go out and be crazy. So, but I'd say, I don't know, maybe it's half and half. I don't know. I really can't.
Yeah, I would relate to half and half as well. I do like you said, admin approach when it's client work. But when it's my stuff, I like to dive in and just I look at it as like a puzzle that I have to figure out.
Yeah.
Only when I have like a concept, and then I sketch it out, and then actually you could go about it this way. But majority of the work, like whether if I have a quote or something, I already know the quote by how it's gonna look. I approach it as a puzzle.
Yeah.
And just figure it out as I go. But that came from I had an art teacher who, when I was in high school, forced me, well, not forced, wrong word, but suggested that I start drawing with pen and not pencil. And that was weird because I was like, I tend to look at myself as a horrible artist in terms of drawing. So I was like, I can't erase. I can't, what am I going to do? Summer's mistakes. But that forced me just drawing with pens. What it did for me over the years and our time in that class is it allowed me to tap into this next stage that I didn't even think was possible, was just, conceiving an idea or concept and without any, sketch or, conception of how to go about it, just to dive into it and let the creativity, be like the steering wheel in that vehicle. And that was very like it was very over time has been very fruitful. Because I've even like approached client work, but I've done research and understood what the client need, and then just be chilling, and at the very last minute, which is go at it and put out the best work. But it would be crazy because I'll sit there and I'm like, if I had approached this like 2 hours or 3 hours earlier, I would have not come up with this concept. Only the timing of it worked because of just how the work that I put in worked. So like I've always kind of paid attention to that. But in terms of drawing with pens, that was something that really helped me out a lot because it got me out of my head because I was thinking mostly mistakes. I was thinking about mistakes, and then once I got into the drawing, I was like, oh, it's not so bad. And then the mistakes started to happen. I was like, oh, this is my fear exactly. And then I realized you could just draw over these mistakes and draw something new. And so that was what happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of my process videos on Instagram, a lot of them starts with me doing something in a different style, and then I'll just get rid of it and do something else. Because it's like a roadblock again. I look at it like as a puzzle. You try these different shapes. If one fit or doesn't fit, then if you try a shape that doesn't fit, then you realize if you put in the puzzle together and it has 1,000 pieces, you aren't just fixated on the one piece that doesn't fit in that specific space. So that's how I approach it. And it tends to be really free in moments that I really need it, That helped me a lot.
Yeah. My friend said to me, he said there's no there's no bad ideas. You get them all out and then you come back later and you edit them. And that was very freeing.
Yeah.
Just get out.
Because that's the most important step, is to get it out. Because that's the only way you actually look at and compare them, is to get it out your head. What is a lesson? What is a lesson you feel you learned too late in life?
Oh, great question. Probably to trust my gut. I think I just trampled my little heart over and over, not realizing that I have a voice and I have a gut feeling for a reason. I would say it's not trusting my gut.
Listen to your emotion and trust your intuition. Say you're going on a 1,000-year voyage at the end of this, right? What is one message you would like to leave behind before you take off?
Wow.
You're gone for 1,000 years.
And this is the message I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Just to everyone.
It could be, someone personal or everyone in general, or a general statement, but a message you're leaving behind.
Yeah, I think it would be that, just to remind people and, my loved ones that you are enough and it's never too late to start again. And there's, I think, then there's always a second chance. There's always perfect love that can wash you clean. It's never too late and you're never too far gone. Just run back to love always.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. One more question, and I'm going to get into a little bit more about your business and what you do to wrap up. Is art something that you've always wanted to do as a kid? Was that like what did you want to be when you were a kid?
So I wanted to be a hairdresser, and that ended when I was maybe 4 and I cut my 3-year-old twin sister's hair, and we
Oh,
literally, I cut all our hair, and that day, we were going for like a paid family photo, and Mum was like, had to really think on her feet, and thankfully our auntie had just given us these thick headbands, so we're all wearing these headbands.
oh wow.
So yeah, that ended my dream. And then I wanted to be a postie, which is like over in Australia. It's so weird, but like they deliver the mail but on a motorbike. And I would sit at the
That's
window
cool.
and be like, the postie's here. But I always wanted to, and then I always wanted to like work with kids in well-being, but I didn't know that like, I always just wanted to sort of work with kids in a school, but not be a teacher, but just sort of look out for them. And that's exactly what I do now. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I'm so thankful for the job I get to have where, you know, like being a teacher is so hard, and my hat's off to all teachers because it's just nonstop. But I get to really come alongside the kids, aside from the learning and education part of it, and just be a friend to them, I guess.
Cool.
So that's always what I wanted to do, and never realized that I could do that. But in terms of creating art, like that's something I'm always blown away by. I'm like, I never thought I would be, you know, creating art as part of my living. Like I remember growing up, and so many other friends were way more artistic in different ways, and you know, I was like, that's not me, and here we are. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's
never
fun.
say never.
What was that last
Sorry.
part?
Yeah, like never say never. God will take you anywhere if
Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
if you're open.
Yeah, absolutely. And it starts with, you know, belief in self. That, you know, I heard that, you know, whatever it is that you're seeking in this lifetime, it's also seeking you. And if you have a passion
Wow.
or something that is in your heart, it was put there for a reason, because like everything in life is an opposite to a situation, to an object, or everything. And so if you have a desire or a passion that's, you know, burning in your heart, is because there's something out there that's calling you. And, you know, through life with how, you know, we come up with family and experience in school and a bunch of outside, you know, perspectives that could pull you away from self. But, you know, some people through the, you know, navigating the storm and all of that tend to kind of circle back to the original self, or circle back to that true life purpose. And for me, I say that because I have a similar story as a kid. I was into arts, but wasn't necessarily trying to be an artist. As a kid, I wanted to be an architect, not an architecture, but what's it called? I'm blanking on. I was trying to be an archaeologist, or
Okay.
which is just fancy for a farmer. But
You mean agriculture?
yeah, agriculture. But agriculturalist. I'm sorry. So like, yeah, too many dreams, I guess. But that was the main thing as a kid, was just like understanding, just like how I could be of service in like a global scale. So that for me, that was the main thing. Because you know, food is something that, you know, regardless of where you are, is a business, is a necessity to life. But that was something I was thinking about, and with art, the only reason, I think you said something similar to someone you used to draw when you were a kid. But with me, the reason why I got into art, my cousin used to visit, and he was really good. He was one of those artists that could draw, you know, like for like. And honestly, the reason I started drawing was as a kid, I was always used to, being in the spotlight and being all crazy. And my cousin, when he came over, he just offered something different, and everyone would gravitate towards him.
Wow.
But most importantly, the girls liked them. So I was like, I got to get my drawing skills up, for sure. So
I feel like that's why most guys learn guitar. Okay, not most, but a lot of guys, they learn guitar. So you went to art, but it's like a lot of guys learn guitar because
it was like with the art, it was only just to compete with him when he was there. Like when he wasn't there, I would work on my art skills to show him when he came, just to be like, yo, dude, I've been working. And that was it.
Wow. So he really shaped you.
In the early stages, he was really good, and then that was what really got me thinking about art. And now people, like family members, when we catch up, they tell me, hey, when you were a kid, you did X, Y, and Z for me, and I'm like, I have no idea, but I appreciate that story. And it's all like, it all puts you back to the thing you're supposed to be doing. But art really didn't click for me until I was in high school, and I told you my mom applied to an art high school for me. But when I went there, it was like a week before orientation, actually a week before school could open. And when I had gotten accepted because I was on the wait list, and the kid got transferred because his family moved to Jamaica. And I was at the quote unquote at the bottom of the wait list, but since the application was late, it was at the top of the pile. And so I got the call. And when I walked in, just walking through the doors, I remember got out the elevator and just looking around, I knew right away that was what I wanted to do. And, and since then I've been locked in, because for me, it's an amazing story, that moment of realization, when everything is kind of clear, where you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You feel different. You feel really different about it.
It really, you can't explain it, hey, but it's like that, I don't know, that lucid moment where you're like, this is what I'm meant to do. And I remember that's how I realized with painting. Like I would literally be painting thinking, I love this, I love this, I love this. And I had never, or maybe like with athletics growing up, I liked it. That was probably the closest thing, but yeah, it was like I've never felt like I love this, I love this, I love this, like about something. It's the best realization where you're like, oh, I am coming alive.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like in those moments is when you really feel kind of the weight of growth, because as people, you don't feel yourself growing, even as physically, you don't see yourself growing until you pull up on the grandparents.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so tall. you got to get down, and it's like, oh, I'm like, I just saw you last week.
No, but it's true. I'm that grandparent now, because I don't see the kids after 2 weeks. When we go on term break, and they come back, and I'm like, you're almost as tall as me. Like it's not that hard, but
yeah,
they've grown. They've shot up over 2 weeks.
Actually, my mom is like 5'2", so like I always know what it's like. Yeah. And I'm 6'1", so.
Oh. Yeah.
But what is your business name on all social platforms?
So it's by BY Chloe, CHLOE, Joy, JOY. Yeah, so by Chloe Joy. It a lot of people misspell my name, Chloe, as
Chloe or
Seahole. It's not Seahole, it's Chloe. It's CHLOE. Oh dear.
What services do you provide? Your business provide?
So I offer art and calligraphy. So I do a lot of calligraphy for events, so weddings, in-store activations. So like on the weekend I was engraving like makeup brushes for customers. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you. and then I also offer like commission art pieces. So think a lot of pastels, and then I like to often add a little bit of writing into it with a message. So yeah, art and calligraphy, I guess, covers all the bases.
Awesome. Where can listeners go and find you?
So on Instagram and on my website, bychloejoy.com. I've been really feeling to start writing blogs more, not because of necessarily people reading it, but just to get that flow, as we were talking about, the consistency. Right. So there's probably going to be a lot more posts over there. So if you want to delve deep into all things human connection and divinity, then jump on in.
Awesome. That's by chloejoy.com, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I'm also thinking about getting more into blogging, hopefully sometime next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. Just even if you just do it for 10 seconds, chances are you'll end up doing it for at least a minute.
I feel like, do you know the SpongeBob essay?
SpongeBob?
Yeah, the SpongeBob essay that he wrote in school.
Oh my goodness, no! But I actually I secretly love.
Yeah,
what did he?
I was gonna make a joke with my 10 seconds blogging was gonna be similar to the SpongeBob essay. But if you haven't seen the essay, it's basically there is an episode where he's in class with Mrs. Puff, and the whole class is writing an essay, and the entire episode is basically about it. And towards the end, he's just, showing close up, he's like sweating, writing. And towards the end, he shows his paper, and it just has the word "the" on the paper. But the T is a drop cap. So I was like, that is dope. That is dope.
Can you do the SpongeBob laugh?
No, I wish I could. But yeah, I feel like a lot of life lessons is in SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, I don't know if you knew this or not, SpongeBob is actually an adult TV show that was pitched to, I believe, either ABC or NBC, and was turned down and then was repurposed as a cartoon on Nickelodeon.
I can see that.
Which is why adult kids.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Squidward, a lot of people I think can relate to him and his, just done with life.
Yeah, they're all adults, really. They're no kids in SpongeBob. It's all adults. Even SpongeBob is just an adult who's just a grown child.
Oh my gosh, I'll never forget that episode.
I wish I knew that, and we would have talked a lot about SpongeBob.
Just where that episode where they make a mess on stage, and it's like Squidward's talent show, and then SpongeBob the curtain opens and he's mopping. And then they're like throwing tomatoes at Squidward, and then Krabby Patty's trying to make money from it, and they're like, "It's worth every cent." Anyway. SpongeBob.
Yeah. Also, another thing, you're actually the second twin I had on the show, which I didn't know you were a twin.
No, I'm not a twin.
Oh, you're not a twin. Oh, okay, cool.
My sisters are twins, but we actually all are sisters. There's 4 sisters, and we look pretty alike, so people think we're triplets or quadruplets sometimes.
That's cool. I mean, or maybe not. Who knows?
Oh, I mean, I don't mind.
One last question. Actually, it could be 2. But let's
go.
This one. Do you fold your pizza when you eat it?
Oh, I do if it's super sloppy. I do because being smaller, my mouth is smaller. So it's just like It's just gonna fall apart
Real
otherwise.
life problems. Real life problems.
Yeah, yeah. But I try not to. I try to enjoy that crust and that base for all it's worth.
So one last one. I'll throw in the second one. You eat cereal, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Not in a while, but I do eat it.
All right, nice. Do you?
I know what this is gonna be.
Do you pour your milk after or before you add the cereal?
I'm not a psychopath. I add the cereal.
Not a psychopath.
I add the cereal before I add the milk. Hello.
Good to know.
Also, it's just so satisfying as well, seeing like the cereal slowly start to float and rise.
Exactly. And that's also, I feel like that's the only way you know how much milk to add, you know?
Exactly.
I don't know how other people do it, but good to know there's some normality about your life.
I would love to try more American cereals. That would be amazing.
What are some of the cereal brands out there? Like, I guess some of your favorites, I guess.
The two that come to mind are Cocoa Pops and then Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops are these round circle things.
Pops? Like P-O-P?
Cocoa Pop.
Oh,
yep, Pops.
It's called Pops over here with P-U-F-F.
So these are different because they almost look like pieces of, they're like very small, like almost rice sizes, grains of rice sizes. And so when you bite them, it like they sort of pop in your mouth. So that's why they call them
Rice Krispie treats.
Probably, yeah. But cocoa flavored, and maybe those ones are too. But I mean, they're all just sugar.
Fruit Loops there, so I'm familiar with that
one. Okay. Yeah, but I'll have to try some American cereals and let you know.
Yeah, even with the American cereals now, because I'm an adult now, so I don't really indulge more of the sugar. So I just kick back with a granola and some almond. Is my go-to now.
An omelet?
No, almond. Like
almond.
Yeah. So it's like it's like I have seasons when it comes to eating. Like even like last week, I had to eat right because of this intense week that we chatted about earlier. Just so body wise, I'm up to it. But when when I'm not working, then I tend to not eat a little healthier or whatever. But I don't know if cereal is healthy or not healthy, in all honesty. But it gets the job done. It's all that matters.
It's quick and it's easy. That's what we need sometimes.
Also, fun fact is, I'm sure you've heard the quote, "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day." That didn't exist. That didn't exist before cereal. That was actually a marketing line that came with the introduction of cereal to sell cereal. Yeah, if you didn't know, now you know.
Wow. Yeah. Look at these dictators giving us sugar.
Most important meal of the day. It was trying to get the kids, and I mean, it worked because now everyone says it. Even the doctor says it. The reason I know this is because a physical therapist, who's a buddy of mine, is now in Florida, was getting his certification in Philly, and he wrote his paper on the importance of breakfast. It was a research paper, and the result from the paper was that actually eating cereal, not cereal, eating breakfast or not having breakfast, you can still have the exact same productivity in the day. It has nothing to do with the other. Which was wild. I was like, dude, because he set out, it's funny because his paper set out to prove that breakfast is, because he's a PT major, to prove that breakfast is an important meal. And at the end of his 25-page paper,
oh my gosh,
it was neither. So it was nice.
I really think it's each to their own. I really think with food, you've got to figure out what your body,
personal,
what works best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing for sure.
Yeah.
But again, I appreciate you and your time, and I appreciate your art. I appreciate the difference, creativity that you bring. I appreciate your openness as well. That you're someone that's really kind of open in, like, as far as the posting in your stories, like, outside of the creativity. So I appreciate that as well. I think as artists, we need to strive to be more well-rounded in all areas of our lives. So I appreciate you for your time and all that you put into the world. And thank you for spending, I guess, 2 hours of my morning and 2 hours of your night.
Thank you so much. No, it's honestly been an honor. And yeah, as you said, like, it's been such an ease. Like, I just feel like I know you, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Yep, Dominic and Broke. Till next time.